The Galactic Council chamber was abuzz with activity, as representatives from various species took their seats. Dr. Liam Novak, a renowned human scientist, and Commander Xander Roth, a distinguished military officer, entered the room, their faces etched with concern. They had been summoned to an emergency meeting, and the atmosphere was tense. As the session began, Ambassador Zorion Krell, a tall, slender alien with piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "Esteemed members of the Council," he began, his voice smooth and calculated, "we have gathered here today to address a pressing matter. It has come to our attention that the human species has been failing to contribute sufficiently to the intergalactic community." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber, while Dr. Novak and Commander Roth exchanged worried glances. Ambassador Krell continued, "As such, the Council has decided to pass a new resolution. Effective immediately, humans will be demoted to a non-voting observer status within the Council." The room erupted in a mix of applause and outrage. Dr. Novak shot to his feet, his voice booming, "This is an outrage. Humans have been loyal members of the Council for decades. We have contributed to the advancement of science, technology, and diplomacy. You cannot simply strip us of our rights." Ambassador Krell smiled coldly. "Dr. Novak, your emotional outburst only serves to reinforce the Council's decision. Humans are too volatile, too unpredictable. We cannot allow your species to have such a significant influence on the affairs of the galaxy." Commander Roth stood up, his voice steady but firm. "Ambassador Krell, with all due respect, this decision is unjust. Humans have fought alongside many of the species represented here to maintain peace and stability. We deserve a voice in the Council." As the debate intensified, a young human named Jace Harlow was hunched over his computer in a dimly lit room, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He had been working tirelessly to uncover evidence of corruption within the Galactic Council, and his efforts had finally paid off. With a triumphant grin, he hit the send button, transmitting the damning information to Dr. Novak and Commander Roth. Back in the Council chamber, Dr. Novak's communicator buzzed. He discreetly checked the message, and his eyes widened. "Commander Roth," he whispered urgently, "we need to talk. Now." The two men excused themselves from the chamber and found a quiet corner. "What is it?" Commander Roth asked, his brow furrowed. Dr. Novak showed him the message from Jace Harlow. "This changes everything," he said, his voice low and intense. "If what this Harlow kid says is true, the Council's decision isn't just unjust, it's part of a larger scheme. We need to act fast." Commander Roth nodded grimly. "Agreed. We can't let them get away with this. But we need to be smart about it. We're going to need allies." As they discussed their next moves, Ambassador Krell watched from across the room, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. The Council's decision had gone exactly as he had hoped. With the humans out of the way, his species, the Zephyrians, would be free to assert their dominance over the galaxy. Little did he know, the humans were already plotting their revenge. Dr. Novak and Commander Roth knew that they couldn't take on the Council alone. They would need the support of other species who had been marginalized and mistreated by the Council's policies. It was time for the humans to take a stand, to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. As they left the Council chamber, Dr. Novak turned to Commander Roth, his eyes blazing with determination. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice low and fierce. "The Council has no idea what they've started. They've underestimated humans for the last time. Chapter 2. Gathering Allies. In the aftermath of the Council's decision, Dr. Liam Novak and Commander Xander Roth wasted no time in reaching out to potential allies. They began by contacting representatives from other species who had been similarly marginalized by the Council's policies. One of the first to respond was Zara Vex, a fierce warrior from the planet Zephyria. "Dr. Novak, Commander Roth," she greeted them, her voice tinged with anger. "I hear you're looking to take on the Council. Count me in. My people have suffered under their rule for too long." Dr. Novak nodded. "We appreciate your support, Zara. We know the Zephyrians have been treated unfairly by the Council. Together, we can fight for change." As they continued to gather allies, Jace Harlow was hard at work, using his hacking skills to expose the Council's corruption to the public. He had managed to infiltrate the Council's secure databases and uncovered evidence of backroom deals, bribery, and blackmail. With a few keystrokes, he released the information to the intergalactic media. The response was immediate and explosive. Across the galaxy, citizens of various species took to the streets, demanding accountability and change. Ambassador Zorian Krell watched the unfolding chaos with growing concern. He knew that if the humans were successful in their efforts, it could spell the end of his species' dominance. He had to act fast. Krell reached out to his network of spies and informants, tasking them with gathering information on the humans' plans. He also began to sow discord among the other species, hoping to fracture the fragile alliances that were forming. Meanwhile, Talon Vex, a notorious mercenary, had been hired by an unknown party to sabotage the humans' efforts. He infiltrated Dr. Novak's lab, intending to destroy his research and any evidence of the Council's wrongdoing. But as he watched Dr. Novak work tirelessly to build a coalition of allies, Talon began to question his mission. He had always prided himself on his loyalty to his clients, but something about this job felt wrong. One night, as he was preparing to plant explosives in the lab, Dr. Novak confronted him. "I know why you're here," the scientist said calmly, "but I also know that you're not like the others. You have a conscience, Talon. You know what the Council is doing is wrong." Talon hesitated, his finger hovering over the detonator. "I have a job to do," he said, his voice gruff. Dr. Novak shook his head. "No, you have a choice to make. You can continue to be a pawn in the Council's game, or you can join us and fight for something bigger than yourself." For a long moment, Talon was silent. Then, slowly, he lowered the detonator. "All right," he said, "I'm in. But if you double-cross me, I won't hesitate to take you out." Dr. Novak smiled. Fair enough. With Talon on their side, the humans continued to build their alliance. They reached out to the Klaxons, a species known for their advanced technology, and the Luminians, a race of telepathic beings who had long been oppressed by the Council. As their numbers grew, so did their confidence. They began to plan their next move, a direct challenge to the Council's authority. But Ambassador Krell was not about to let them succeed. He had one final card to play, a secret weapon that could destroy the humans' alliance from within. As Dr. Novak and Commander Roth prepared for their final confrontation with the Council, they knew that the stakes had never been higher. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they were determined to fight for it, no matter the cost. Chapter 3. Confrontation and Chaos. The day of reckoning had arrived. Dr. Liam Novak, Commander Xander Roth, and their allies stood before the Galactic Council, their faces set with determination. The chamber was filled with a tense silence as the Alliance presented their demands for equal representation and fair treatment. Ambassador Zorion Krell was the first to respond, his voice dripping with disdain. "You dare to come before this council and make demands? You who have been granted the privilege of being a part of this great intergalactic community? Your ingratitude is astounding." Commander Roth stepped forward, his voice steady and resolute. "Privilege? You call being marginalized and oppressed a privilege? The Council's actions have made it clear that they do not value equality or fairness. We are here to change that." Krell's eyes narrowed. "You are here to sow chaos and discord. The Council will not bend to the will of a few malcontents." As the debate grew heated, Talon Vex watched from the shadows. He had uncovered a shocking truth. His employer, the one who had hired him to sabotage the humans' efforts, was none other than a high-ranking member of the Council. Talon stepped forward, his voice cutting through the arguments. "I have something to say," he announced, drawing all eyes to him. "I was hired to work against the Alliance, to destroy their efforts from within. But I have learned that my employer is a member of this very council." Gasps of shock and outrage filled the chamber. Krell's face twisted with rage. "Lies! This mercenary is clearly in league with the humans. His word cannot be trusted." But Talon held up a data pad. "I have proof. Communications, transactions, all linking my employer to the Council. This body is corrupt to its very core." In that moment, Talon made his decision. He turned to Dr. Novak and Commander Roth. "I stand with the Alliance. I fight for what is right." The Council erupted into chaos. Some members called for Talon's arrest, while others demanded an investigation into the allegations. Ambassador Krell's true colors were revealed as he openly opposed the Alliance, denouncing them as traitors and anarchists. As the arguments escalated, the Council's security forces moved in, weapons drawn. Commander Roth and his allies responded in kind, and soon the chamber was filled with the sounds of battle. In the midst of the fighting, Dr. Novak noticed something strange, a hidden door at the back of the chamber. Dodging blaster fire, he made his way to the door and managed to pry it open. What he found inside made his blood run cold. The room was filled with advanced technology, far beyond anything he had ever seen. And at the center of it all was a massive, pulsing energy core. "What is this?" Dr. Novak breathed, his eyes wide with shock. Commander Roth joined him, his face grim. "I've heard rumors of a secret council project, something they've been working on for years. This must be it." As they examined the technology, a terrible realization dawned on them. The Council hadn't just been oppressing other species. They had been hoarding advanced technology, keeping it for themselves while the rest of the galaxy suffered. Dr. Novak's fists clenched. "This ends now. We have to expose this, show the galaxy what the Council has been hiding." The battle raged on, but the Alliance fought with renewed purpose. They knew that they were fighting not just for their own rights, but for the future of the entire galaxy. As the dust settled, the Alliance emerged victorious. The Council lay in ruins, its corruption exposed for all to see. But the fight was far from over. Dr. Novak and his allies knew that they had a long road ahead of them to rebuild a new intergalactic order based on equality, justice, and truth. Chapter 4. Revolution and Resolution. In the aftermath of the battle, Dr. Liam Novak and his allies gathered around the ancient artifact they had discovered hidden within the Council's chambers. The artifact pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its surface covered in intricate symbols and markings. "What is it?" Commander Xander Roth asked, his voice filled with awe. Dr. Novak shook his head. "I'm not sure, but I have a feeling it could change everything." As they studied the artifact, Talon Vex approached, his eyes wide with recognition. "I've seen this before," he said softly, "in the archives of my people. It's an ancient weapon, said to hold the power to reshape the galaxy itself." The Alliance members exchanged glances, the weight of this revelation sinking in. With this artifact in their possession, they had the power to not just overthrow the corrupt Council, but to fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy. Dr. Novak turned to his allies, his voice filled with determination. "We have to use this, not for our own gain, but for the good of all species. It's time to launch a full-scale revolution against the Council." The others nodded in agreement, and they began to plan their next move. They reached out to their contacts across the galaxy, rallying support for their cause. Species that had long been oppressed by the Council flocked to their banner, ready to fight for a new era of equality and justice. As news of the revolution spread, Ambassador Zorian Krell grew increasingly desperate. He knew that if the Alliance succeeded, his own power and influence would be lost forever. In a last-ditch effort to maintain control, Krell rallied his own forces, promising them wealth and power if they could crush the rebellion. He even managed to sway some members of the Council to his side, convincing them that the Alliance posed a threat to their way of life. The stage was set for a final, decisive battle. The Alliance, now joined by Talon Vex and his network of mercenaries, launched a multi-pronged attack on the Council's strongholds across the galaxy. The fighting was intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But the Alliance had something the Council did not: the support of the people. Across the galaxy, citizens rose up against their oppressors, joining the fight for freedom. In the end, it was Ambassador Krell himself who fell at the hands of Commander Roth. As the two warriors faced each other on the battlefield, Roth's voice rang out clear and strong. "Your time is over, Krell. The galaxy belongs to all of us, not just a select few." With Krell's defeat, the Council's power crumbled. One by one, their strongholds fell, until at last, the Alliance stood victorious. In the days that followed, the Alliance worked tirelessly to establish a new governing body, one based on the principles of equality, fairness, and representation for all species. It was a monumental task, but one they were determined to see through. As they stood together, looking out over the stars, Dr. Novak turned to his friends. "We did it," he said softly. "We changed the galaxy." Commander Roth nodded. "But the work is just beginning. We have to make sure that this new order lasts, that we never again allow power to be concentrated in the hands of a few." Talon Vex grinned. "Well, I for one am looking forward to the challenge. After all, what's life without a little adventure?" Zara Vex, the fierce Zephyrian warrior, laid a hand on Dr. Novak's shoulder. "Whatever comes next," she said, "we'll face it together, as equals, as friends, as a united galaxy." As they looked to the future, the Alliance knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, obstacles, and those who would seek to undermine their hard-won peace. But they also knew that they had something worth fighting for. a vision of a galaxy where every species, every individual, had the chance to thrive. And with that knowledge, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever the universe had in store.